What we want to talk about today is related to our understanding of addiction. The first step in solving a problem is to describe the problem. In addiction, in my opinion, we have very, very little understanding of what constitutes an addiction. What we have is conventional wisdom, which since 1930 has indicated that addiction is a moral problem. You have to understand, in the 1930s, that was the political climate in the United States, or all over the world for that matter. That addiction, because people had substance abuse disorders or substance abuse problems, primarily alcohol at that time, that they were all considered drunks, and those people were then determined to be morally flawed, and what they needed to do is to work on their spirituality in order to get better. As a result of this being a moral problem, what was developed in 1932 was a treatment philosophy known as AA, or Alcoholics Anonymous. At that point, and from 1930s through today, AA is the predominant conventional wisdom understanding of how to treat an addiction. Now, generally, contrary to conventional wisdom is science. Science is always contrary to conventional wisdom because it's easier to understand this than it is to study that. Even in 1930, scientists, a gentleman by Donald Hebb, understood the neurobiology of the brain. Basically, what he said at that time is the neurobiology of how neurotransmitters function is that neurotransmitters that fire in a series then become wired in a series. So what he's saying is, as a result of multiple neurotransmitters firing in a series, this one being 1, this one being 2, this one being 3, these neurotransmitters who fire in that loop then develop what is known as an Engram, or a memory loop. From a scientific approach, an Engram is the essence of why we have an addiction. We have multiple definitions of addiction. We have the NIMH definition of addiction, in that it's a chronic relapsing disease in which the structure and the function of the brain have changed. We also have a SAMHSA definition, which is very, very similar. We have an ATS definition. An ATS, addiction treatment strategy, we say substance abuse or an addiction is a stress-induced impulse control disorder that leads to the use of a substance or a behavior to decrease that stress. We use this definition because it's related to what the science of what Hebb said in 1930, in that the neural connection between 1, 2, and 3, which are neurological memory processes, are those things that fire, that trigger both the compulsion and the craving to use a substance. So as one becomes stressed, the natural response is, or the neurological response is, to have these neurotransmitters fire in a sequence, which then decreases the stress. That can be alcohol, that can be heroin, it can be eating, it can be gambling, it can be cutting. Any of those behaviors or substances can be used to decrease the stress. What we offer here at ATS is a program that addresses the individual needs of a patient related to a scientific approach of an addiction, and that we offer, number 1, medical assistance to decrease cravings and compulsion to use a substance. We also treat the underlying causes of an addiction. So our physician is familiar with anxiety, depression, bipolar, ADHD. So we need to treat those things simultaneously. Invariably, almost all of our patients have underlying causes for their addiction. Our patients may have started using substances as early as 12 or 13 years of age, and that's at a time when their brain is growing quickly. So if you start using marijuana and alcohol at an early age, your brain growth development has morphed as a result of using those substances. So medically, you need to be treated for those conditions. So we have medical assistance, we have individual counseling. All of our therapists are available to our patients to develop a unique treatment plan for that individual that addresses underlying causes for their addiction in addition to their addiction. Our therapists are available to our patients 24/7. We don't work 9 to 5 because addiction doesn't occur 9 to 5. We understand that patients may need help at Sunday morning at 3 o'clock. We're available to talk to you. We're available to come in. Our patients get better as a result of our individual availability to all of our patients. Most of our patients here have been in the program a minimum of 6 months, and the majority of our patients are here for 12 to 18 months because it takes that long to fix this. If it's a neurochemical problem in which the structure and the function of the brain has changed, we're not going to fix it in 30 days. It's going to take every bit of 12 or 18 months to get those things back in place. So we use medical assistance, medical intervention, we use individual therapy, we have group educational classes where we teach our CBT behavior learning skills. We have 70 individual lectures that we use where a teacher comes in and teaches people how to use our strategies. And then we have lesson plans for all of our patients to go through those in our educational format, and then they can practice those in group therapy or group intervention. We have group intervention classes here where people can practice CBT in a format with 25 or 20 other patients who are here. We practice those on a regular basis. We also have family support group where patients come in, patients' families, whether it's mother, father, spouses. We teach them and educate them as to what it is that we do at ATS that increases our outcomes. Our outcomes here at ATS are relatively significant from our perspective. Patients who have been in our program for 2 years, at the end of 2 years, those patients who came here unemployed, 70% of those people are now employed. That's a good sign because that means they're back in the work environment. Of those patients who came still living with mom and dad, about 33% of those people are living individually. In addition, those people also have relationships now with a significant other. So we have 70% of our people who are now employed, which means they're making over $30,000 a year and are able to support themselves. They no longer live with mom and dad. They are in a relationship and they're no longer using substances. All we have to say is it takes an appreciable amount of time to reboot the brain. That's what we do here at ATS is we take care of people. We don't treat addiction, we treat people with an addiction.